And get started here. I think we may have some more people join us, but last year we started this out in Dallas, did this on the floor with instead of just myself as the AMCOM commander and PEO Aviation Bob Marion, Tim Crosby last year, we had all the PMs up here with us, and it really turned out to be I think one of the better sessions that we had because the guys that are the true experts are here, not somebody that has to walk up on the stage and ask questions or get answers in front of everybody. So we appreciate all of you coming first to Quad A, and we appreciate your support for Army Aviation and for the Army itself. And we are here to do the best we can at answering your questions. Some of them will be opinions. These aren't necessarily stating facts, but some of them will be opinions. And I'll turn over to Bob if he's got opening comments, and then we'll get into it.
Thanks, sir. Yeah, just echo what General Collier said. I was here last year also. General Crosby was the PEO, and I was sitting as the cargo PM, and we got a lot of really good, hard questions. So I think you should ask a lot of really good, hard questions to the PMs, and I'll be the one that runs the mic back and forth. So that's going to be the extent of my involvement. No, I'm just kidding. But rather, I think we have 30 minutes or something on the stage, so I won't pass the mic around unless one of the guys has something they're dying to say. What I guess I'd like to do is open it up and see if there's any questions to start with, and then if we get a lull, then I'll ask each one of the PMs to maybe say something about what's going on in their world. So, is there anything that anyone other than Jen Judson is interested in asking? I'm just kidding, Jen. Any questions or comments from yesterday or this morning's discussions? I see one in the back there. Let me bring the mic to you. Oh, you got it? Thank you.
Sir, my name is Scott Barrington. I'm with Teradata Corporation, and the Army Aviation is spending a lot of money and has a lot of efforts on collecting health monitoring data and so forth, and then on top of their other data sets, 2410, 2408, and NULS data. And a lot of folks I've talked to, and I've been kind of doing an informal query about, what kind of feedback do they get on the data they're collecting, and talking to the soldiers at the show, and it doesn't seem like there's they get a lot of feedback. Does the Army have a plan for how to better address and analyze all the data they're collecting?
I see Jerry Davis clearing his throat, so I think that means he's ready to talk.
Yes, sir. There we go. Okay. Two. Okay. The plan for the aviation data, we've got an aviation data system structure that we're putting in place. We're changing out the ALS logbook with the new aircraft notebook coming online. The ALS A that was spoken about earlier by General Lundy, the Aviation Logistics Enterprise Platform, is going to be the data source of that to come online and replace both ALS A as well as UASI, as well as some proprietary systems that are out there as well with that. And then when it gets to the data collection and data analyzing, it's the aviation data exploitation capability. It's the ADEC. And currently that is we have an ICD initial requirement for that. The capabilities development document has been staffed at Fort Rucker. It is out of Fort Rucker. It is now with RKIC. We are awaiting a cost benefit analysis to go with that, and RKIC will push that out for worldwide staffing. That includes in that the collection of that data, the warehousing of that data, as well as the analysis of that data. And so that's where our capability lies, and that's how we will answer that in the future.
Hi, guys. I wanted to ask, how does the PO plan on describing the PM ASH office as the Army divests Bell helicopters?
So if I understand your question right, how are we going to transition the office in the future? So that's still something that we're working through today, but what we're doing in the in the interim is ramping down our personnel at the same time that we're ramping down the aircraft in order to meet that mission, which is still to sustain aircraft as well as divest aircraft at the same time. So we're, it's still ARI is a 5-year plan, and we're in the ramp down process right now. So what does that office look like at the end of that? I think is still to be determined.
Right, so they still have a mission, obviously. I mean, those airplanes aren't going to be gone for 5 years. So they've moved from developing and fielding CASIPs, now that program's been terminated, to divesting TH-67s, Alphas, Charlies, Deltas, and so like James said, they've been very open and honest with that workforce, and if they have opportunities, then the way he's presented it, and I think it's absolutely the right thing to do, is to tell those individuals that they will take risk inside of the ASH project office in order to allow people to move out to other opportunities within the aviation community. So he's done absolutely the right thing to do while he continues to manage those weapon systems, to also manage his workforce. So they've done absolutely the right thing there.
Just kind of a follow-on from the Aviation Missile Command, we will continue to reset or to work the aircraft that are in maintenance. We will complete all of those. We are holding in place a little bit with inducting new aircraft to see decision-making and timing for certain events to take place. But again, there are aircraft that will be in our formations for several years, and we need to make sure that any pilot that's flying that helicopter has all the capabilities that he can have as a part of that formation, and we will continue to do that until the last one comes out of the fleet.
Andrew Dravinga from Rotary and Wing. Nice to see you again. The question refers to, as the Army comes back from Afghanistan and obviously full combat missions, how are you going to approach the training challenge going forward? One, in terms of fitting the multi-mission requirements in fewer flying hours, but also to maintain enthusiasm for coming back and doing that, training mission. Thank you.
Yeah, Andrew, that's a good question. It would have been a better question yesterday to General Lundy.
Probably tried.
No, yeah, really. So that's really General Lundy's lane, and I've heard him talk about training and the importance of developing a home station unit training capability because of the exact reason you're talking about. So aviation formations aren't going to be on one-to-one dwell cycles anymore, and they're not going to be in theater getting great experience flying 500, 600, 700 hours a year, and getting a couple thousand hours in the first 5, 6, 7, 8 years of their careers. That's just not going to happen now. And so I know he has a big emphasis on home station unit training, so not just individual but collective training, and he came to us from CAC, Combined Arms Center, so he's absolutely the right guy to be in the job at the Aviation Center today to figure out what the right path is forward for that.
And I don't know if you were up when I spoke earlier this morning, but this is something that we've been talking about for a couple of years. We've got soldiers that have done everything we've ever asked them to do in combat, and we've given them additional levels of responsibility. They've shown the ability to do that. And I tell you, we have regulations that are written to be risk averse in CONUS, in training. And if we're going to keep some of those great soldiers in and keep them motivated, why would you want to come back from doing the things they've been doing in Iraq and Afghanistan and stand on the side, as my example, and be a safety at an M16 range instead of running that range, which they're fully capable of doing? And so we have to look at what our regulatory requirements say we can and can't do. And it is incumbent upon us to keep them trained and proficient. Mike Lundy is the right guy to do that across the aviation fleet, but we've got to be able to do it within an affordable range. And that's a challenge to all of us to do that. And we continue to work the issues. We continue to work them down. Flying profiles, flight profiles, all that sort of thing is something they really can't do other than in simulators. And we'll have the simulators available to do all of those things to keep them with the experience that they've gained.
Hi, Doug Harpel, Defense Systems Journal. This one's for Colonel Kennedy again, I think. Where do you see the OH-58s going? Maybe to our allies, FMS? How, when, and where?
Yeah, so that's a good question. There's a very deliberate process that we have to follow when we talk about, and each one of those aircraft are treated differently based on how they're categorized. Some of them are more similar to a commercial aircraft variant, and then of course the 58D is really a wartime aircraft. So they get treated differently, but they all go through the same process where you start off and you look at them and you say, first of all, are there other services that are interested in these? Are there other government agencies that are interested in these? And then and you walk it down to eventually go through FMS. Is there a market? Are there customers out there? And then one further might be to GSA sales, and then eventually you get to the point where you demill the aircraft. So the aircraft right now, we're dealing with FY-14 only, and which consists of just a small group of 58s. Much of the other aircraft are a little bit further to the right in the plan. So as we look at the 58s, right now we're putting them into non-flyable storage as we go through that screening process to determine whether or not there's an FMS sales case that makes sense. We just don't know right now in terms of FMS. So, but that's the process in a nutshell that we have to go through.
I want to add on a little bit onto that, just on the other side. The aircraft, we've talked to Bell about this, so that Bell is prepared to support the aircraft around the world as necessary. The key on some of this is there are price points that there are countries out there that we assume that these aircraft would be at a price point that they can afford, that they may like a different system or a new aircraft or something else, but don't necessarily have the resources to do that. We'll work through the process that Colonel Kennedy talked about, and if we sell them, fine. If we do something else with them, again, we will be good stewards of the resources. And again, that's why we work very closely with Bell, who has that sustainment requirement. Expect there will be some opportunities around the world for the aircraft.
Sir, I'm kind of hidden around the corner here. You can't see me, but you have an RFI out on ARLE for CLS, and my question is, you've got 4 EMARS aircraft coming online pretty soon. The Army's picking up some MC-12 aircraft. And I guess my question is, what's the plan for the ARLE fleet? And is this CLS program going to continue? Thank you.
Is this working? All right. So ARLE, so right now we're working on the requirements. Once we figure out what those requirements are going to be, we'll work towards those requirements. And the ARLE is supposed to replace, as you know, the ARL fleet. We're going to upgrade the capability. There's a direct requirement out there to purchase some existing aircraft to make them government-owned. So yes, it's going to still be an existing program, providing the funding comes through in the future, as we're expecting it to be. But no, it's going to be a viable program, and should be rocking and rolling for some good years in the future.
I just wanted to follow up on the Bell helicopter situation. I'm wondering if you have offered to sell back any aircraft to Bell at this point.
So we're in discussion with Bell every day on the topic. So there's a wide range of topics, and certainly that's been one of the things that we've talked to them about. But it's a very wide range. Everything from FMS to sales to retirement of the fleet. So nothing has really been narrowed down at this point in time. I might just hold.
I know the press seem to be dominating this, but if anybody else wants to ask a question, feel free. We heard a bit about the opportunity to marinize aircraft and work potentially with the Navy. Could you talk a bit about what opportunities may lay ahead and where that direction might expand to? I know from the UK's point of view, they've been looking at the Apache. They had the Apache based on HMS Ocean during the Libyan conflict, and the Australians are looking at the Tiger. what do you see ahead for that sort of role within the Army? I mean, not only Apache, maybe even Black Hawk.
So, as far as requirements from a materiel perspective, as we talk about shifting to the Pacific, the Army already has a huge presence in the Pacific between Alaska and Hawaii and Korea and Japan, and so we already have a huge presence there, and Army Aviation is a big presence as well. As far as changes in programs as a result of marinization requirements, we haven't had any change in programs of record as a result of that. So that doesn't mean Army Aviation can't operate off of ships and in maritime environments, because we have been doing that for years. We just don't live well on the back of ships for extended periods of time because of the corrosive nature of that environment. And I think there's been a lot of studies that have been done that say, daily freshwater washes go a long way to solving corrosion problems. And then there's a whole host of different things you can do with coatings and other things, but those create significant challenges from an operational perspective as well. But as far as changes to programs, that would be requirements haven't driven us in that direction yet as a result of any shift in the Pacific.
I can also add what we spoke about also yesterday, I believe, Andrew, is the maritime mode that will add to the fire control radar for the Apache. So that was already communicated previously before we got the shift to the Pacific, but it is going to be one of the additions that we will have on the Apache helicopter to go ahead and look at those swarms of seaborne craft as they approach the vehicle. So we are trying to look, I think, forward advancing through what we're doing in Army Aviation through some of the programs that are already set in place.
Get somebody from the back of the room.
Feel free
shy.
to jump in. So Heidi Shu mentioned yesterday that the Army's reset requirement in 14 was for 549 aircraft, but you only have funding for about half of that. So I'm wondering how you are going to cope with that. What's the game plan?
Again, the total number is the number of aircraft that we have that are back, awaiting reset, and the additional aircraft that will be returned from the theater that will then need reset. We are working with all of the units that are coming back. We make sure that they have the aircraft they need to maintain flying proficiency and training proficiencies, and we induct over a period of time. It's what we're really doing is right-sizing a glide path down with the teams that we have to reset. We are on a good glide path to finish. Again, we need OCO money out, again, as we've said, for the last 8 or 10 years. We need to complete the war and OCO for the 3 years following that. If we do that, we don't have any issues with the timing of the reset program at all. So what we'd rather do is be consistent with our teams that we have on board. With the type of numbers that we have today, we can ensure a quality aircraft comes out every time, which is the most important thing that we do. And so I think it's a good plan. We are looking at alternatives if we need to pull it forward and do more sooner. But it's really what that does is ramp you up to almost immediately ramp you back down, and it's not necessarily an effective use of our workforce.
I just wanted to get your opinion on what do you think of like performance-based logistics types programs?
Close.
Oh, hello. I was wondering what your opinion was of performance-based logistics programs, like enterprise-wide.
PBLs are a tool in the toolbox. PBLs aren't for everything, but there are plenty of opportunities, and we have had some great success with PBLs across the aviation portfolio. Where it makes sense, we need to do it. Where it's a win-win for both sides, we need to do it. There are other opportunities that we do not need to pursue. And I think where we really need to look in some cases, and OSD is forcing this issue, is to look at some joint PBLs versus just Army, strictly Navy, strictly Air Force. Where we have common platforms, that's probably about the only place there's much low-hanging fruit left out there. We have harvested all of that within the services pretty much, and there are some. And right now you get into rice bowls when you talk about those, but I think there are still opportunities out there for that. We're going to start calling on people on row 5, seat 7 or something here. Start thinking of questions.
So in the HASC mark, there's mention of some concern over the Army's aerial ISR plan. So I'm wondering if you could comment on what this aerial ISR plan is, and if you think that is an unfair assessment that that they're concerned over the fact that you may not have much of a plan.
A plan ahead, right?
Yes.
So AISR has been briefed and approved in the past, and we have what I think is a clear path ahead towards that. We've got EMARS, and we got the 24 planes going to be making that up with the pure EMD fleet as well as the MAMI fleets that we have coming in. We've got plans to upgrade and transition from COCO to GOCO. The ultimate plan is to get down to, if you will, 52 aircraft, so we have some that we're going to divest. I think there's a clear path ahead as far as the Army is concerned. We just have to continue to prove that to leadership and to Congress to make sure we get the funds to support that.
Hi, can you update your DVE activities and maybe talk about whether any of that's joint service and whether the levels of funding and kind of milestones ahead for the DVE initiatives?
So we have a couple of different DVE efforts going on. The BORS program, the Brownout Rotorcraft Enhancement System, went through a milestone decision, development decision last August timeframe. September, we received an acquisition decision memorandum saying go forth and do the analysis of alternatives. The analysis of alternatives is ongoing right now. Track Leavenworth is leading that effort. We fully expect that effort to be completed by the end of September of this year. We will then take those results forward through Army leadership and let Army leadership make a decision based on those results and based on affordability analysis as to what the Army wants to do with the BORS program itself. Outside of the BORS program, there's a lot of effort going on within the S&T community associated with that. You have some work at looking at technologies. The S&T community is working in an effort where they will actually have a flight demonstration. They're partnering with NATO. Eventually, they want to have a demonstration on U.S. soil as well as a demonstration in the European theater as well associated with that. But they're looking not just at the brownout, they're looking at the much larger degraded visual environment requirement, which is not just a sand environment. It's a sand, it's a snow, it's a wet, it's a rain, fog, other things as well associated with that. I think they're also looking at some obstacle avoidance wire detection capability as well associated with that. So from an S&T perspective, we're looking well beyond where we are today with technology, looking at fusion, looking at reducing the size and weight of the capability that's out there as we move forward. The ultimate goal is to have an integrated DVE, not just brownout, but a DVE capability that will go into the FVL program.
Hello. Matt Anderson from Vertical de Aviation. I was just wondering if you could comment, in light of current events, what you see as the future of the various Mi-17 programs that the Army has.
That empty chair on the left is Colonel Jim Brashear, who's AWOL. He's the non-standard rotary wing PM, and he has the portfolio, the part of the portfolio that is all of the Mi-17s, Mi-35s, the different MD series airplanes. So Mi-17's a commercial airplane, a lot of applications. We've purchased a lot of those airplanes on behalf of a variety of nations, and there's been a lot of press about whether or not it was the right thing to do and how are we going to move forward. We have a huge investment already. I can't see us turning our back on that huge investment that we've already made. Clearly, it's going to be above, any decision on what happens moving forward is going to be above anyone on this panel sitting right here. Colonel Bashir is probably on a telecon with somebody in OSD right now answering those questions. So what the future will be, I honestly can't tell you. I don't know. But I do know it'll be made at levels way higher than the PEO Aviation, and we're going to support those decisions and figure out how to execute those decisions.
The decisions that were made up front were made for valid reasons for those countries. It's an aircraft that they could sustain, they could fly and sustain, and afford to do that with. And those decisions, the reasons behind those decisions have not really changed. It's
Attention
really
in the exhibition hall. Sergeant Kenneth Ray Martin II. I have your ID card. Front security desk. Sergeant Kenneth Ray Martin II. Come pick up your ID card. Also, will the owner of a Cadillac, Tennessee, Davidson 544, Papa Victor Quebec, please move your Cadillac off the C dock. Thank you.
all right. Now that we got done with the important stuff, Mi-17s, it's political things. We will do as directed, but there were some valid reasons that still remain for why we bought those aircraft, and until those change, we'll continue to move forward based on guidance from way up high.
Tony Skinner from Defence Helicopter. Just got to follow up on the DVE question. What's been obviously this has been a problem for a good part of more than a decade. What's been the hold up in terms of the wider fielding? Has it been the technology not being mature enough, or has it been this sort of a funding issue? Could you kind of clarify that a little bit?
I think a lot of it has been the focus of where we have looked for DVE. So if you go back to how DVE was defined as far as solving the issue with DVE, it was a three-legged stool defined as. One was the sensor, which is what everybody thinks of in DVE terms today. It's what can see through. The second is the symbology piece. And the third is the flight controls piece, modernization of the flight controls and flight control laws associated with that. So if you go back and look at modernization within the platforms, the Army has significantly been addressing the flight control laws and the upgrades to those flight control laws. If you look at the capability of a CH-47 Delta versus a CH-47 Fox, there's great enhancements in the flight control laws and the flight control capabilities. The same with the UH-60 Lima model going to a Mike model aircraft. So what we have done is we've focused on the stability of the aircraft and given greater capability into the hands of the pilot associated with that. Within the symbology set, you look at the Air Warrior program, and Lieutenant Colonel Spence Guida runs that. And he brings the platforms together to talk to common symbology so that we can get to a solution set for commonality and looking at DVE and how we solve that. The focus today, because we've had such success in the areas of flight control laws and stability of the aircraft and in the other areas, what you see is you see the sensor piece sticking out. And so now everybody wants to define the solution for DVE as a sensor set on the aircraft. But that, in fact, when the problem was initiated and the problem was looked at, was not the only solution to that. It was a part of the problem. So now we've addressed a lot of other problems on the aircraft, a lot of other problems through symbology, and we continue to work with the platforms themselves to improve that capability on individual platforms.
All right, I've got the next question, since nobody else is asking. For all the PMs, a couple of people spoke upstairs today about the issue of weight and the growth in weight in our aircraft and what that means to you. We've got a lot of people out here from a lot of different industries, and one of the things we need all of you to focus on is the size and weight of the systems that we continually add or that are already on an aircraft. And I would ask you all as PMs, what effect is weight and size having on your platforms? Where do you need help?
So I'll lead us off. Rob Berry, I'm the cargo helicopter PM. The continual erosion of the commander's payload is obviously something we're all concerned about. So over time, in our case, CH-47F was fielded in 2007. And over time, depending on how you add up the math, you can have either 2,500 or up to 4,000 pounds of payload that has been removed or from the commander's use, added as very legitimate mission equipment package that our user has determined through combat use of the aircraft is required for the air. So ways to recapture that we are always trying to seek. So over time, when I mentioned 4,000 pounds, we've reduced a significant portion of that just through smart use of materials, through leveraging our industry partners, and we're always looking for ways to continue to do that going forward. So specific numbers we try and avoid because there's different ways to add it up, but it's safe to say that over time it's a lot of weight, and it's been added for the right reasons to keep our crews more effective and more safe when they're executing their mission. So in the case of Chinook for Block 2, buying back that payload and recapturing the commander's ability to execute his mission is right at the forefront of our objectives.
Okay, Thomas Todd, Utility PM. I thought I might get away without having to answer a question. Thank you, sir. But I guess not. I have the Black Hawk helicopter program as well as the Lakota program, specifically platform-wise, under my purview. And really what we've seen over the last, as Rob mentioned, really decade plus, about 90 pounds per year growth on the Black Hawk platform. Technically, that is because of additional mission equipment packages, much like we just discussed, whether it be aviation survivability equipment, ballistic armor protection, you name it, they're all for the right reasons. But there are certain fact-of-life changes that we've seen over the life of the Black Hawk program, and those are some of them. So we have to account for that in our planning. One of the ways, another program that I also have in my portfolio is the Improved Turbine Engine program. So specifically, the Improved Turbine Engine program is targeting my platform, and I'll let Jeff speak to his, and maximizing the current transmission we have. We do not currently maximize, with the engine power that we have right now, the dynamics on the platform. So what that will do is it will allow us to utilize and make up for some of that additional weight that we have seen over the last 10 to 12 years, and return us back to, for a Black Hawk squad size assault mission, which is what our requirement is in a high hot environment. So right now, impact to the Black Hawk has been that 90 pounds, around 90 pounds per year, has taken us in a high hot environment to where we can, instead of carrying sometimes 11 troops, we can only carry 5. So we accomplish that with 2 Black Hawks versus 1, or Chinook accomplishes that mission. So again, we anticipate that continued, kind of path. We don't know that we have ever seen much in the way of weight reduction. So we ask for your help in that because we know that sometimes the payoff, it is awfully costly to actually see weight reduction. So maybe a good target for you as industry might be, we would love to see weight neutral proposals at a minimum so that we do stem the tide at least by maintaining what we have.
So let me talk from a black box perspective, because I'm the cats and dogs PM, and I have all of those other things. So I am a part of their problem because I bring them black boxes that I integrate onto their aircraft, bringing capability to the aircraft. But where we are today is everybody wants to solve my problem with a black box. And not only is it a black box, it's a black box with excess capacity to bring future capability. Well, it only brings future capability if you develop a capability to go into the excess capacity. Everybody bringing me a black box does not solve my problems, it creates my problems. So as an example, the IDM 401 right now has 4 times the processing capability of a 304. It has excess slot capacity, it has excess memory capacity. But without something to go in that excess capacity to bring capability, I don't get to reduce weight on the aircraft. So as we go forward in the future, what I need is industry to look at how do we shrink capability down to cards? How do we shrink capability down and bring it as software to the aircraft? That's a key piece to it, because when I can take a black box off of their aircraft and put that capability into excess capacity that we already own and is already on the aircraft, that's how I can help every platform save weight, not just a single platform.
Thanks, Jerry. That's a perfect lead in, Jeff Hager, the Apache Project Officer. So this is exactly what we're looking for in the Apache Project Office, is now we have the computing power, the throughput, and the memory on the mission processor, the radar electronics unit, the other components that we have on the Apache, and that's what we're asking Jerry. Just what he asked industry is come to the prime contractor with a solution set that does not require a black box. Bring me the capability, let me insert the capability on the airframe, and we'll utilize it as such. We can do that with the aircraft that we have today. As a second point, in reference to the ITEP engine, we are looking for the ITEP to come to fruition for the Apache Project Office. For the first time in history, the Apache is not transmission limited. We have a strong enough transmission to accept the ITEP. We'll utilize the ITEP's energy, and we greatly want that as we continue to keep the Apache viable into the future until FVL comes in line.
You know, the part of the important part of the answer, I want to go back to what Colonel Todd said, is the viability of our platforms. A platform that's designed to carry 11 soldiers, the weight of the soldiers going up at the same time as the weight of the Black Hawk or other aircraft. And so now if you can, instead of lifting a squad, you can only lift a half of a squad, we've doubled the requirement. Then we've doubled the logistics requirement. We've doubled the sustainment requirement. And that's what we can't afford to do. We need all of your support across the board, and I think that integration that Colonel Davis and all were talking about is very important. We don't need more of them. We need them to be integrated and things to fit inside of one, so we can put that soldier back on that platform. You know, the average, we're talking the average weight of the soldier today with his gear is about 335 pounds. And you think about that, and you look up here, and most of us aren't anywhere near that, but we're expected to carry that, and that scares me. Knowing my own capability, that scares me a lot. And they say that it's gonna continue to increase on the soldier also. So if there's things that we can do better, lighter, cheaper, we need the, you know, we talk about cheaper all the time. In some cases, lighter is just as important to us for the dollar as the cheaper is.
Right, so thank you. Sikorsky recently flew a optionally piloted Black Hawk about a month ago, or just slightly longer. Airbus Helicopters flew an EC-145 optionally piloted last year. Bearing in mind what that can do, and also the Marines have had an ongoing test with a K-MAX, I was just wondering how that was starting to impact onto Army Aviation's thinking in terms of, you know, a potential program in the future. I know it's not funded at the moment, but I was just sort of asking for a bit more insight into that and what your impressions of that are.
Yeah, I think, so you're right, Andrew. We don't have a funded program, and we don't have a requirement right now for unmanned aerial resupply or something like the Marines are doing. But certainly it makes you think about capabilities for when you're flying ring routes in theater, or resupply from hard stand to hard stand, or even potentially self-deploying systems across longer distances. You might even be able to do that in an optionally piloted vehicle. But again, you know, right now we're in the mode of fitting programs into the existing fiscal reality that we have, and there's a possibility that we could go down that trail if it became a requirement for us, but we currently don't have a requirement to do that. And Tim, I'd maybe ask you about the unmanned piece of that.
You're absolutely right, sir. Tim Baxter, PMUAS. So we continue to monitor all activity, to include the KMAX and what's going on with the Marine Corps and the cargo UAS. So I've got a small team in my shop dedicated to just monitoring all activity across the industry.
As the ratio between investment from U.S. Army to industry, there are always exceptions, but kind of is changing. So there's more being required from industry itself. Are there any unintended consequences or changes in the ways that you are addressing this that have come, good or bad, I suppose, when you can't count on R&D dollars necessarily to push the weight-saving changes that you guys are looking for, or anything else for all that matters?
I can answer a little bit of that. So we have had to look at that in utility helicopters, specifically regarding data rights and what we can afford to purchase and what we actually need. So what we end up needing is the ability to sustain and maintain our platforms, because when we hand that off to our soldiers, obviously we have to have the ability to do unit level, intermediate level, and depot level repair. And that's our job as PM is to hand that off and make sure we have those rights to do so. And as we look at that, whether it be in a preliminary design review, critical design review with you on anything that we're doing, that is where, quite frankly, it ends up being we will only need these deliverables to support that strategy, and that's all we're willing to pay for. And sometimes, yes, it means we're okay with you maintaining those rights. Okay, and I think that's actually one of those win-win solutions that we talked about earlier. That's kind of how we navigate through a cost-constrained environment and do what the chief has asked us to do, which is be adaptive and innovative. So thanks for that question, because we have had to navigate through that recently on some contract efforts.
I can probably add a little bit from that. From the Apache perspective, we have a modernization strategy team that we utilize that brings in our prime contractors, in addition to TRADOC, our TRADOC capability manager, and the Apache project office. And we have those frank discussions on what industry is putting their IRAD dollars forth to come to a solution, and also have discussions on where we can go into the future. So we try to lay out a roadmap on which direction that we want to go within the project office, and a lot of it is specifically on weight reduction and getting more capability into the airframe. So we do hold those discussions and try to proceed forward and steer industry as it's related to the Apache helicopter in the right direction, so they don't waste those precious dollars and we can gain some benefit from it in the end.
So, Colonel Klaus, German Liaison Officer at Fort Rucker. With respect to the DVE issue and the weight issue, is tactile queuing one of the solutions that you can anticipate, or is it out of your scope?
I think, again, that falls into the S&T community as they look at fusion of different sensor capability and how you display that to the pilot. So that within the S&T community is what they are looking at themselves.
But it could be one solution.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks.
I'm Kurt Herrick. Since you have a sensitivity on the weight, which is a good one, have you examined your configuration control procedures at the various design and review levels to not slow things down, but to ask good questions early, because you may well be able to insert something early that's really hard to fix later?
Yes, sir, and that's exactly correct. That's why we try to have the strategy team that I spoke of, and specifically call industry in and hold those meetings quarterly at my level, and then more often than that at the product managers below me, so we can steer industry in the right direction before they produce a piece of equipment. Because you're exactly correct. If we don't maintain configuration control and try to project that configuration control over the near future, we'll get something, as we spoke here earlier with Colonel Davis, we'll get a black box or something of the like that is in exceedance of the weight limit in the location we want to place that piece of equipment. So yes, we heavily look at that right now.
And I'll add to that, same thing, we have a ACCP process, which is our aircraft configuration control process, which now takes into account two variables really that we didn't avoid, but obviously in the rush to get things to the soldier downrange, speed was really the criteria we were measured by in the past. But now we take into account impacts on cost of the platform and impacts on threshold requirements to the platform. And where that weight issue really comes about is when we talk about the ability to lift an internal or external load at hover out of ground effect, for example, for a Black Hawk. So now early on in the process, we talk about changing the configuration to an Alpha Lima Mike Black Hawk or Lakota. We specifically look at whether or not we're impacting threshold KPPs, and if so, by how much, and in addition, cost.
You know, to take that back to the earlier question about performance-based logistics, that's configuration control is one of the key aspects of why we have challenges in the joint arena with PBLs. Is each individual service with different mission set requirements willing to have another service dictate what the configuration control, sorry about that. I'm getting old. Senior moment. Configuration control, you know, nobody wants to lose that. And that's one of those key challenges with performance-based logistics on a joint basis.
So, Charlie Barton from the Australian Liaison Office at Fort Rucker. Joint Strike Fighter and JLTV have both had early foreign investment through the official observer status, which has improved logistic lines, but also reduced early R&D. Is there any consideration for JMR or future vertical lift to have any official observer lines brought in, or is it still too early to say?
As far as future vertical lift, I'd say we're probably too early to decide. We haven't had an MDD material development decision on that. All the pre-MDD activities ongoing. And as far as for FVL, I think we're probably too early. As far as the JMR TD, I don't believe we have any foreign investment or foreign involvement in the program at this point. I think that's something, obviously, as we move forward into FVL, that will be critical, just like in Joint Strike Fighter and JLTV. You know, purchasing power in terms of numbers is always great, and shared R&D's expenses is always something that we're looking to do, just like in Joint Strike Fighter as well. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I think, again, too early on FVL because, you know, pre-MDD activity is what's ongoing now, and we currently don't have any, although it's something that we certainly should be looking into for FVL. Thanks.
Smiling real big.
I have a question regarding common ground support equipment and actually the proliferation of peculiar ground support equipment is prevalent throughout and across all platforms. Is there any effort to try to consolidate and take a look at the amount of common equipment that truly is utilized across platforms?
We do a refresh rate within the ground support area, and depending on the area, we do it about every 5 years. So about every year, we look at a different area of common support equipment to look across platforms to see what it is that's out there. If it is truly a peculiar piece of equipment to that individual platform and has no application on the other platforms, then we don't try to force commonality upon the platform. We allow the platforms to do their specific things to meet their specific needs for their platforms. When we do go out and find a commonality across the way, we then turn and look at the commercial industry to see, is there anything out there that meets the variance in needs? Because typically it's not the exact same need on different platforms, but it's a similar need. And so we look to the commercial arena, because a lot of our ground support equipment today that we go out and buy is a commercial or a commercial variant that's out there. And so we look to industry to say, do you have something that meets the needs of not only the Black Hawk but also the Apache? Because they have this, it's not the exact same need, but there's enough commonality there that we might be able to find a piece of equipment that would apply to both within that. So we do that on a recurring basis within my ground support equipment shop.
So if I could just do one more question. We got to clear the stage here at 2 o'clock. So if there's one last question. It's fitting. Go ahead, Jane.
Sorry, I'm picking on you.
She's looking at Brian.
I'm wondering if you can help me wrap my brain around this or explain it to me a little bit more, how you plan to integrate sensors onto all the various platforms you intend to use for EMARS. Seems like you're pulling a lot of aircraft from various, QRCs and Liberty and Boeing EMD aircraft, and then a variety of sensors coming out of theater as well. So I'm wondering, is there analysis going on and what you're looking at in terms of how you're going to go about doing this?
So as you may remember, by the way, I never introduced myself. I'm Brian Saborn. I'm the deputy for fixed wing. So our expertise here at Huntsville has been sustainment of aircraft. For the past 3 years, we've partnered with our sister PM up at PEO IEWS, PM SAI, and it's their mission in life to develop those sensors, integrate those sensors, or put the sensors through the test, through the analysis, through the requirements. And then our role in PM Fixed Wing here is to be the overarching manager of that program, to integrate it onto the aircraft and make sure that, as we talked about configuration control, that everything is copacetic. How we do that is going to vary. We have 4 different types of aircraft, if you will, going into the EMARS program. We have to take a look at the requirements to determine which sensors meet which missions better. There's a lot of variables that go into that, and for me to sit here and tell you, we're going to do it one set way is just going to be not true. So we have to take a look each situation. We have to do the analysis. We have to get with our brethren PMs and decide what the best path forward is for that. Like I said, one solution is not going to be the overarching solution for the whole fleet. That's probably the best way I can answer your question. I'll be glad to talk to you offline if you want more details about that, but that's probably the best I can do at this point in time.
All right, well, listen, I appreciate everyone's involvement and appreciate the opportunity to come answer some of your questions. I've always felt like this is a great forum for the opportunity for dialogue and interchange, and please take advantage of the opportunity for the PMs as they're on the floor, visiting your booths, to engage them and give them some things to think about, and give me some things to think about as we move forward and leave this Mission Solutions Summit, help form our thinking as we move out and do our jobs every day. So thanks for the opportunity, sir, and I'll hand it over to you.
All right, I want to thank everybody for coming and listening to us, and for the questions from all 4 of you. This truly is a great team up here of PMs and PEO. They are selected based on some pretty stringent criteria, based on, as you know, the criticality of the systems and the dollars that are associated with that. So we've got a great team. You combine this with Mike Lundy from the schoolhouse and Clay Hutmacher from the Special Operations Command and our guys in the G3 and G4 Aviation. It is a very tight-knit community that works extremely well together to ensure they're speaking with one voice and getting one set of requirements across to you all. And we appreciate your support in minimizing the challenges associated with this. It is tough business, and there's a lot of dollars, so we get a lot of visibility and a lot of help. But we appreciate what you do and your support of Quad A and the entire session that we've had. And we look forward to an opportunity to see you and talk to all of you again. Thank you. Thank you, all you guys.